I think what we saw today is that AI from our perspective is something which adds value, but it has to be carefully evaluated where it actually adds value. We have way less development time than we used to have. We have the intelligence, we have the ability, we have the networks here, we have the experience here, so we just have to get up and do it.
I was thinking, we're 30 years old. No, you and I. MVTec is turning 30 years old this year. That's, I would say, some stuff. And I can see there on the fireplace a picture that if we had a fireplace in MVTec, I would have exactly the same picture there. Would you be able to tell me something about it?
Yes, these are two very young gentlemen. This picture is about 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago. Besides myself, with this bright pullover, there's this other gentleman. This is Wolfgang. Wolfgang is also here today. He probably looks more closer to this person over here than I look closer to this person on the image. And what we do actually, this is interesting, we had an exchange with the Mexican Research Institute, and this picture has been taken in Mexico, and we are sitting on the back of a truck, and I have a infrared camera in my hands.
It's a pretty big one, huh?
It's pretty big. It was probably like 40, 50 centimeters and 20 times 20 centimeters, so quite some weight as well.
All right.
And we were then driving very slowly with the truck over the road and wanted to identify scratches and stuff like that.
Do you think infrared cameras look like that nowadays, or has anything changed in the meantime?
Oh, a lot. This camera was really expensive, so I think it was more than a 6-digit German mark number.
That would be about 10,000 euros, something like that?
No, more than 50,000 euros.
Anyone selling infrared cameras here? Did you hear that?
What do you get for 50,000 euro today? So we probably have to answer what is the price of such a resolution of a camera today? And this is probably like 1,500 euro or something like that. By that time, the sensors were amazingly expensive, and also the lens was pretty expensive by that time.
Some things have changed, some things have stayed the same. Technology evolves, and luckily some of the technology does actually evolve in a good way for us and for all our guests. So if you were to pinpoint a few of the technologies that actually made it, that are delivering for us and for everyone in the machine vision world, where would you like to start from?
I think that if you look over the past 30 years, lots of things has happened. And not only in our software ecosystem, so to speak, but also the components itself. So where are we? And I think we saw this also today in the presentations. We are still working along a value chain which was not so different like 30 years ago from today. So the value chain includes a camera, a lens, an illumination, and some way to transport images from the camera to the host PC or to the edge PC or to the cloud nowadays. And last but not least, you have to process these images, and you have to integrate the results into a system. So this is not so different from the time back like 30 years. What has changed is the way how we look at it and the way how we manage it. And this is what I found very compelling in the presentation of Bosch, where we saw that working along standards, along this value chain, provides actually an added value in the sense that it reduces risk that comes from different components which do not fit very well to each other, risk from not using standards in the image processing itself, which leads to systems which are very hard to maintain. Yeah. That's the most important point. And this understanding, in essence, is a factor where we have way less development time than we used to have in the previous times.
So you mean what we used to develop over a period of time of maybe 24 months, nowadays we have less than half of the time for bringing something out?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And also we heard today total cost of ownership. So what is the actual cost if we look at the lifetime of a system, at the lifetime of an implementation? And this still, for my feeling, is something which is to a certain amount underestimated. Because even if you have a very quick deployment time, your production changes over time. There are time variances, so to speak, inherent into the system. We better have to also make visible what it costs to actually run that system. If we saw the presentation the morning from HG Systems, where we have the spin picking application, this was very obvious that these objects which are picked over there, they change and they will change. They will put other objects on the line as well. But you don't want to re-implement everything from scratch when you change these objects. So we have to better take into account what do we pay for the entire lifetime of the product.
Yeah. So AI is often like in the bad books, but we need to say that AI is also delivered massively under some respects. Would you like to comment maybe on AI?
I think what we saw today is that AI from our perspective is something which adds value, but it has to be carefully evaluated where it actually adds value. And we saw the presentation about continual learning today. Continual learning as a concept is probably around since several years already. And sometimes there's a big delay between something is invented or is put on the table for the first time and the time where it actually can be deployed, the time where it's actually understood what is the real benefit for it, and the time where we understand how well can we integrate this into an existing ecosystem. Nobody wants to throw away his own efforts just because there's something new on the table. I think MVTec is working along the way when we see in value and where we are confident that it does add a value, we do this. I give you an example. There was one question in the audience during the continual learning application where somebody asked, so how many classes can you add before something happens which you don't want to have? And the answer was, we don't know. We tested between 10 and 20. And this uncertainty is something which we have to live on if we talk about AI. And we have to make this, we have to put this on the table. And on the same time, we have to put on the table, you know what, if you want to do this 30 times, then please come to us and talk. AI in that respect offers great possibilities and also great traps. And our mission is to avoid that you run into traps while applying these methods.
At the same time, I would say nowadays it has stabilized to a certain extent. So models are more stable. It's not the kind of, I don't know, lab where you try everything and if something explodes, you have to that. There is a stable AI. Would you like to comment on that?
Yes, there is. We started like 10 years ago and the models are way more better than they used to be. It's also way more better understood what they can really deliver. And it's also way better understood that the data quality is way more important than the choice of a model, so to speak. We have a much better understanding of how the technology can be applied today than probably 5 or 10 years ago. And the most important point for me is that we share this level of knowledge with our customers, with our partners. Because what we try to avoid is a situation where we have an overestimation of what these AI methods can do. So we have to be realistic. If we look at the discussion, which is very fresh and very new, the ecosystem for AI agents, which are now available, my thinking was more like, do you want to really have an AI agent running around autonomously between the PLC and the different workstations you have in your production line, and he's collecting data just because the boss did say, I need a KPI like this and please collect me the data. And all of a sudden the machines shut down because the AI agent consumes so much horsepower, so much computational powers. We have to carefully look at this technology and identify where it really does value. And I think one point is really underestimated in that respect. If we would have standards also in that area, it would probably help us way better to describe what they can do and what we really want to avoid.
You already mentioned this. AI is also moving to the edge in a sense. It's a trend. It's there. We've seen it today as well. Any comments on this, or would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, this is, I probably go back a little bit in time, 8 years or so, where we got good feedback from customers because they said, yeah, it's so great that you have integrated now these standard tools which you all know nowadays, like classification, semantic segmentation, object detection, and anomaly detection. And my system, my machine, I can sell for $50,000 or $100,000, sometimes less than 50,000. But if I add another $2,000 on the bill of materials, my total equation gets out of balance. We were facing the point that the customer actually want to try to avoid adding another. This is an active system, by the way, because it has cooling on it and so on. They really want to try to avoid adding something on the BOM. So we were facing with the question, how can we actually use or rewrite our algorithms in a way that they run on standard CPU? And I think this is still true today. And this is why we are also super happy that we now see more and more AI square interfaces. We talked about Qualcomm today.
Yep.
I think Intel is also around the corner. And this would mean we would leverage, so to speak, the standard CPUs or the NPUs on the standard CPUs, and without adding a big chunk of money to the actual system. So the edge actually is the point where we can really add value, and we do add value over there.
And at the same time, the ecosystem, the edge ecosystem is improving by the day.
This is a good point. I think what is really an advantage of, we have heard about Siemens and Bosch today, the platforms. What is really an advantage, these platforms, they are transparent in a way that they can support the edge as well as a cloud solution. This is something where today it's not really clear which part takes what, so to speak. So how much will be put in the cloud and how much will be put on the edge. But our current view is that most of our system integrators, they really prefer to work on the edge.
In 3D vision has always been, let me say, I was going to say the word edge, but I meant it in a different way. At the corner, let me say, of machine vision, it's always been rather specialized stuff, extremely complex from a software point of view, but also from a hardware point of view. But if I think of future scenarios, 3D, I have robots in mind, of course, it is going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, 3D is something where we invested very early already because we anticipated that we will see the sensors very soon. We were not quite sure which sensor by the time we started. We probably were more thinking about our stereo system or something like that. So nowadays we have lots of choices, lots of different technologies. And to make this very clear, if somebody can find a solution with a 2D camera, he will use a 2D camera because it's a commodity approach, it's well understood, it's easy to integrate. 3D actually means to add one dimension complexity to the system. This is still the case. I think that on the 3D side, there can be more and there's more demand. We see also sensors getting better and better in terms of resolution, in terms of frame rate, in terms of active illumination or passive illumination. We ourselves, we contribute to that technology for the ones who want to set up an own imaging system in the sense that they have more than 2 cameras, they have 4 cameras, 8 cameras or so. We also have a demo outside to show what is possible today. And so we believe that 3D will continue to be a success story, but probably not at the pace which was expected like 5 years ago or so.
Okay. So 3D, I don't know if you would agree to this, but 3D is not something that, oh, if I must, or if nice to have, but if I could do without it, it's going to be a building block of the machine vision of the future, so to say. Would you agree to that one?
It's a building block, yes, of course. And the 3D part or the 3D topic is very often considered to be a bin picking part or part of a bin picking solution. This is true, but we also see inspection tasks done by 3D. This is probably more important than the pure bin picking part.
Moving on now, maybe to some technologies that have disappointed or have, let me say, moved a lot more than in the fact that we're capable of actually moving. So could you name, do you have anything in mind where you think this is actually a little bit inflated or hyper evaluated or anything like that? You may use the word AI if you want.
Yes, I touched a little bit on that. I think what we do, we have to be realistic. So we have to face the reality in the sense that where does a new technology really adds value? And we saw in the presentation this morning from our research department, there's an incredible number of papers regarding AI. And this is the hot topic, so to speak. But we actually live in a world where what's today called physical AI. So where we add AI to an existing machine, to an existing system, or we probably build something new, built on something which is real, which is touchable. And we always have to keep in mind that we want to add value on this machine and not for the sake of the technology itself.
Yeah.
And we consider our mission to explain what adds value and what does not add value. And, so this is where we are. We try to bring benefit. There's so much. If you look at the Gartner hype cycle, for example, which explains how fast the technology will be deployed into real applications, say it this way, you still see there is a gap between the peak of inflations and what is really put into reality. And I think what we do, this is very well aligned with what the Gartner hype cycle says.
The last time I saw the hype cycle, it was interesting for me to notice how back, let me say 7 years ago on the hype cycle, you would have deep learning. And nowadays you have names that are like 5 letters and they understand half of what they're saying. It's the things have changed. And if you consider the first Progress release we had in 2017 at the end of the year, that was the first time we introduced deep learning features that were not MLP. And then we had classification, and all of a sudden came object detection. And if you think where we are today, things change so fast. And the hype Gartner cycle reflects that. I think, as you've said, part of it is already almost on the plateau of productivity.
I think the standard technologies which are integrated now in products, they are on the platform of productivity. Yes.
Staying on the subject of fancy words, I would like maybe a comment from you regarding foundation models, zero shot, train ones. And could you say something on this?
I think there's a big hype regarding the foundation models at the moment. So the promise is that a foundation model would be able to take a good image of, say, a PCB board, and then it will recognize all anomalies on this PCB board while produced along the way, so to speak. We hear this, but we can't share that this really exists. Technically, it may be theoretically possible that this will come true. But so far, we have our strong doubts that this is the case. We're also experimenting this with the zero-shot approaches or no approach or no image approach whatsoever, one image approach. But our evaluation shows that this is not reliable. And this is also this is a good point. The trick with this AI stuff is that usually you find an example where it works. And then you say, oh, it works. That's great. But the point is, our customer base is super broad in so many different industries and so many different applications. And our motivation is to provide something which covers at least 80% of this. This is what we have to keep in mind. If we look at a new technology, that it really can be applied on a larger level, not only on this one and only.
One shot. I think this is part of the great job our R&D is doing. Checking every day. I don't know how many papers are written every day on AI subjects, AI topics. And I can't imagine these guys are just switching around this paper saying, not this and this one is relevant for our customers, because at the end of the day, that's what's relevant for us. If it's not relevant for our customers, it may be interesting and nice, but we're not going to do it. Simply.
Exactly.
And staying on the topic of things that are, let me say, very hyped at the moment, but not quite sure. I'm not sure if you have seen the movie Wall-E. It's a cartoon movie from the 2014, 2013, something like that.
What's the name of the movie?
Wall-E. It's a small robot that lives in the future, and basically it's a kind of visionary movie what AI could be in 100 years, 300 years, 3,000 years, I don't know. But currently there is a vision that, oh, you have AI, you push a button and everything works down in the production line. I guess that might be a little bit overestimation. What do you reckon?
I have a hard time to imagine that. I really have to say. So there's this physical world where we humans live. And if we do have too much AI around us, it's probably not feeling so much comfortable anymore.
That on the one side, absolutely, I can relate to that. On the other side, I also think there is a certain level of experience which you cannot translate into a model. So the experience of someone with 10 years of experience badges, it's not something you can easily translate into a model. It gets to the point where not everything can be turned into something where you push a button and everything works down on the production line. Do you see, with the current status, any threats, anything where you see these are going to be challenging times for us as MVTec, for our customers in the machine vision world? Do you see anything where you think maybe that's a topic that we should be addressing sooner or later because it might be?
We live in a world where we do have a life cycle. So it's not only that we have a certain method developed or a fancy algorithm which solves a certain application. So I also think that the life cycle of the application is becoming more important.
Did the application need to live for longer, or that the lifetime is getting so short that just keeping up with it is going to be a challenge?
My impression is that as far as we live in a world where we produce something, we probably have, sometimes we produce only a few items, but we still produce something. And we don't want to change all our production equipment along the line. My strong opinion is that the production equipment itself is still working under the assumption it has to last at least 5 years. So this is why I think that also the components which fit into this production environment, they have to live like this. What we usually see is 10 years, and we also have requests for 15 years and more. So this is the current state, and I don't think this will change.
Would you agree if I say, at the consumer level, having every second month a new release of ChatGPT that paints better cats or whatever is okay, but when we're talking about the industry, having stable, reliable models that can last for the long run instead of having every 6 months they need to add something new. I don't see that happening in many of the companies.
No, definitely not. Very often the assumption under this also our customers are working is never change the running system. And I think this prevails. Will still be the case also in the future. And I don't see a situation, or I don't see a world where we have a situation where models are automatically updated because there's a model database, or data are automatically scanned and qualified whether they should be applied for the training, which is in the background and so on. I think we are far away from such a situation, because at the end of the day, we produce something and this has to be according to the specification.
One of the most delicate topics I hear now talking to customers and talking to companies is that of cyber resilience. Cyber resilience is a huge thing. It's going to hit Europe, and as a consequence, the rest of the world in 2027, at the end of November 2027. I think it's a change, as much as a change as AI can be. Would you agree to that?
If you look at the Cyber Resilience Act, any device which outputs data can be passed to another device falls under the Cyber Resilience Act. The intention, I think, is very good. And I also have to say that we get also requests from customers, because software in itself can be a vector of attack. And to provide more reliability and more confidence that at least the software we provide is free of this kind of defects or attacks or vectors of attacks, this is something which is important. So the Cyber Resilience Act will hit 90% of the audience here this year. And so it did already hit us. And we're supplying SBOM with Helken. This will also be provided with the other products as well during this year. We have to take it seriously, and we do.
Yeah, we're about 2 years early, I would say. It's 2511 already had the software bill of material, which is not a strict requirement until 2027. Do you see issues with labor, like workforce? Do you see, because this is a very complex topic, it's also very controversial. On the one side, you have AI that will replace us all, and on the other side, you have lack of skilled labor that can actually...
We do have lack of skilled labor. Just look at me, yeah? There's no doubt about it. So the boomers will simply leave their workplaces, so to speak, And I think in Germany, for example, I just read the number, by 2030, 2035 or so, we will have 7 million people less workforce as we have today. And today we are probably at 43, 44 million workers in Germany only.
Yeah.
So this is a substantial amount of numbers, 10, 15%, maybe a little more. We don't know how this really develops. But the point is that we actually lose knowledge. And this is a fact. And losing knowledge means on the other side, if you want to maintain the same level of, or maintain the same production level, maintain the same quality level, we have to react in a way that things are getting easier. There may be probably applications where we don't require the high-skilled PhD engineer to make that happen, because the knowledge of the high-skilled PhD engineers inbuilt in the product already. And so it can be utilized by applying this product. So I think that our job to some extent is we have to make things easy. And Merlin is a great way to make things easy on this end. There's still a need for high-tech stuff, no doubt about it. But we cannot ignore that the workforce really is going down.
So you don't see a scenario where AI will be able to replace all of this?
By no way, no way. AI will crawl into jobs which can be standardized very easily, and which was not possible before that. But the same thing we do have also for machine vision applications. 10, 15 years ago, we were not able to really do a good quality inspection of fruits, of apples, or potatoes, or cherries, or whatsoever, because the technology was not there. Today it's there. We can actually automate the quality assurance process. We don't need these workers anymore, which are on the conveyor belt and do this manually. And if you transform this model to, for example, legal processes like discovery doing automatically or evaluating non-disclosure agreements automatically, this can be all done by AI. And these jobs where people really work in doing this, they will be transformed. I'm 100% sure. And on the other hand, we're running out of work. So it's out of
Workforce.
Yeah, exactly.
Having a look at the time, Olaf, I think I might have a look now if there's been any questions from our audience to you. For that, I might need this invention from...
I tell you, this is age.
Oh, yeah, we don't talk that. Someone is asking us if we can start having a podcast on this topic. I think I'm ready for that. Anytime. What is the next big thing you want to develop with MVTec in the next 5 years?
What? Yeah, this is the name of the project.
Brilliant name.
There's probably not so an easy answer to that question, but to give you an idea, we think that also AI is changing the way how we develop and probably deploy, not so much how we run applications in the future. And if you want to get an idea how far we are with our thoughts, just go to the poster outside where we share what we are looking at.
Yeah, with our crystal ball. I have 2 questions here related to your long career. We don't want to say how long, but long, let's say. What's your best memory thinking back of the last 30 years? And biggest challenge for machine vision you already mentioned, so let's stick to the best memories. And if you have any advice, 30 years as founder and CEO, what's the most difficult phase in building up a successful company?
Or
mentoring. We should get...
So the first answer is very easily working together with a great team. From the beginning, and we were able to really align on the understanding for what purpose the company is good for and what we want to do. And we've been doing the same stuff for now 30 years, so software for machine vision. I think this is the greatest pleasure I have.
And how about the building up the successful company? What's the most difficult thing for you?
I'm looking more from a fun point.
Okay.
We
stick to the fun.
So as we started the company, we were all technicians. We had no idea, no clue about market research, custom, but we had ideas about technology. So we were outsourcing the sales, so to speak, to distributors around the world. And for us, this was more a fun journey in the sense that this gives us the opportunity to get to know very different cultures, very different people, and to simply learn along the way. So this curiosity what is happening next and what really drives us further in that respect. This was a big motivation and still is.
And in the meantime, eating some great food every now and then. It's one of the bonbons of our sales. What do you think European, I refuse to quote exactly here, but how do we make European manufacturing again great in your opinion?
Say it again now.
How do we make European manufacturing great again? Very funny.
So great, so great. I think the core point is we have to look what are our values, where we are strong in. And if we add things like speed and things like getting close to the customer, then we are back on track. Okay. So because we have the intelligence, we have the ability, we have the networks here, we have the experience here. There's nothing which really hinders us. So we just have to get up and do it. Yeah. We probably go through a valley, but I'm 100% sure we go out of this valley as well.
Again, on your career, if I could say, if you would start fresh now, what would you do differently?
I would build humanoid robots. Yeah, I'll tell you the reason. I started my career partly at the university and we built robots by that time, not humanoid robots, but some robots. And I really find it super interesting to see the advancements of the humanoid robots and what they are able to do. There's a long way to go before they really can be productive in a production environment. You can program in the way that they dance on stage, but the real stuff still is very complicated.
How can we make sure AI will work in the long run? Like how to officially validate and release defect detection in production and make sure it's safe? What is a safe way to make AI not just something where you need to change everything every second day?
I think if you want to have a technical answer, talk to our research guys.
It's what I always say to my customers. When will MVTec go for the stock market? That's a classic.
I already had the question also today regarding M&A and stuff like that. MVTec is family-owned business and it will continue to be a family-owned business.
And I think with that, gentlemen, we can give Olaf Munkelt a very big applause. Thank you very much. This is all we have time for today.
Thank you very much.